Bruce Willis's family announced they are donating his brain to science. His wife Emma called it emotionally difficult, but scientifically necessary for understanding frontotemporal dementia. This is the man who gave us Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, and The Sixth Sense. And now his brain might help unlock the cure for a disease that is destroying thousands of families right now. Everything began in March 2022, when the Willis family posted an announcement that Bruce was retiring from acting because of aphasia. Most people had never heard that word before. Aphasia means you lose the ability to speak properly, you cannot find words, and you cannot understand language. For an actor whose entire career depends on delivering lines, this was devastating. But what the public did not realize was that when someone develops aphasia without a stroke or a clear brain injury, that is primary progressive aphasia. It is a symptom of something much worse happening in the brain. 10 months later, in February 2023, the family came back with the real diagnosis: frontotemporal dementia, FTD. This cleared up everything: the speech problems, the personality changes, the withdrawal from public life. It all made sense. Frontotemporal dementia is not like Alzheimer's disease, which typically hits people in their 70s or 80s. Frontotemporal dementia often strikes people in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, right when they should be enjoying the prime of their lives. Bruce was 67 when his retirement was announced, but the symptoms had probably been developing for years before anyone noticed. When the news broke, Hollywood responded immediately. Maria Shriver tweeted that her heart goes out to Bruce Willis and his family, and that she is grateful for shining a much-needed light on the disease. She said that when people step forward, it helps all of us, and that a diagnosis is extremely difficult, but for most people, it is a relief to finally have answers. She understood what the family was going through, because her own father had Alzheimer's, and she had watched him disappear piece by piece. John Travolta shared a moving post about their friendship from Pulp Fiction and Look Who's Talking. He wrote that years after working together, Bruce told him that when something good happened to Travolta, he felt like it was happening to Bruce as well. Travolta said that the story shows everything about who Bruce Willis really was behind the tough guy persona, and he described Bruce as a generous soul. He expressed his love and support for Bruce. M. Night Shyamalan, who directed Bruce in The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Glass, called him his big brother. He tweeted that he sends all his love and respect to Bruce Willis, and that he knows Bruce's wonderful family is surrounding him with support and strength. He said Bruce will always be the hero on the poster on his wall when he was a kid. This year, Shyamalan gave updates, saying Bruce's family is doing their best under impossible circumstances, and praising how they have handled everything with grace and dignity. Carl Weathers, who sadly passed away this year, posted that he sends love and positivity to Bruce and his family. He wrote that Bruce's talent has been enjoyed around the world, and he listed Die Hard, The Sixth Sense, and Pulp Fiction, adding that he loves Bruce's work. Haley Joel Osment, who starred in The Sixth Sense, wrote one of the most moving tributes. He called Bruce a true legend who has enriched all of our lives with a singular career that spans nearly half a century. What happens with frontotemporal dementia is that your frontal and temporal lobes start accumulating abnormal proteins. Think of it like rust building up in an engine, except this rust cannot be cleaned, and it keeps spreading, killing brain cells as it goes. There are two main types of frontotemporal dementia. One type attacks behavior first, making people impulsive and causing them to lose empathy and self-control. They might suddenly start shoplifting or saying inappropriate things, not because they are bad people, but because the part of their brain that provides impulse control is literally gone. The other type, which Bruce has, attacks language first. It starts small with forgetting names or mixing up words. Then it progresses to knowing what you want to say, but being unable to form the words. Eventually, you lose the ability to speak, read, or write entirely. You become trapped in your own head, watching your ability to communicate disappear day by day. His daughter Tallulah wrote about this in Vogue, describing how she noticed something was wrong years ago. She saw vague unresponsiveness and thought maybe her dad had lost interest in her after having new children with his current wife. The reality was that his brain was already starting to fail. She wrote, "I thought he'd lost interest in me." Though this couldn't have been further from the truth, my adolescent brain tortured itself with some faulty math. I'm not beautiful enough for my mother. I'm not interesting enough for my father. By 2024, reports indicated Bruce had become largely non-verbal and could no longer read. This is a man who memorized hundreds of movie scripts and delivered some of cinema's most iconic lines, including "Yippee-ki-yay" and "I see dead people," which was not actually his line, but he made that movie work. Now he could not read a simple menu. In August 2025, his wife Emma gave an interview to Diane Sawyer. She explained that while Bruce is still mobile, his brain is failing him. She described moments when she would see flashes of the old Bruce, his characteristic laugh or that famous smirk. But those moments disappear as quickly as they appear. Emma also revealed something heartbreaking. She said Bruce would want their daughters to be in a home that was tailored to their needs, not his. That is why they made the decision in October 2025 to move Bruce into a care facility for 24-hour professional care. This was not because the family did not want to care for him, but because frontotemporal dementia eventually requires medical expertise beyond what any family can provide. The disease does not just take language. It eventually affects walking, swallowing, and breathing. The average life expectancy from first symptoms is 7 to 13 years, and from diagnosis, typically 5 years. There is currently no cure and no treatment that can slow the progression, unlike Alzheimer's, which at least has some medications that might help. This brings us to why brain donation matters so much. The only way researchers can truly understand frontotemporal dementia, or FTD, is by studying the actual brain tissue of people who had the disease. While brain scans and cognitive tests provide some information during life, examining the brain after death reveals the actual protein deposits, dead neurons, and patterns of destruction. One donated brain can provide tissue for hundreds of research studies. Scientists can slice it extremely thin, stain it in different ways, and examine different regions to understand exactly how the disease progressed. Dr. Andrew Budson at Boston University's Alzheimer's Disease Research Center said he knew Bruce had primary progressive aphasia the moment the family announced aphasia. He said if the cause had been a stroke or a tumor, they would have said so. Budson explained that we now know there are more than a dozen different abnormal proteins that cause frontotemporal dementia. 20 years ago, we did not even know these proteins existed. Every brain donation has taught us something new about these proteins and how they destroy the brain. Bruce Willis. Donating his brain carries particular significance because his case has been so thoroughly documented. Researchers have tracked his symptoms for years, and they know exactly how his disease progressed. When they examine his brain tissue, they will be able to match what they see to what happened to him clinically. This connection between symptoms and pathology is invaluable for understanding the disease. The history of brain donation for dementia research goes back to the 1960s, when the first brain banks were established. Back then, families often hid dementia out of shame, claiming their loved ones were just getting old. Over time, families began to realize that brain donation could provide definitive diagnoses and closure while potentially helping future generations. The UK Brains for Dementia Research Programme started in 2008 and recognized that researchers need both diseased and healthy brains for comparison. You cannot understand abnormality without knowing what normal looks like. In the US, 30 research centers collect brains, following people for years before death and then studying their brains afterward. What makes frontotemporal dementia so cruel is that it is actually common in younger people. For those under 60, it is the most common cause of dementia after Alzheimer's. Because diagnosis takes an average of 3.5 years, and people are often misdiagnosed with depression or bipolar disorder, the true prevalence is probably much higher than we know. About 40% of frontotemporal dementia cases have a family history, and there is a specific gene mutation, C9orf72, that guarantees a person will develop the disease if they carry it. This genetic component makes Bruce's brain donation even more significant for his children, Rumer, Scout, Tallulah, Mabel, and Evelyn. If Bruce's frontotemporal dementia is genetic, each of his children has a 50% chance of inheriting it. The brain donation will reveal whether genetic testing is necessary for them. Rumer Willis recently gave an update saying she is grateful she can still hug her dad, but admitted that anyone with frontotemporal dementia is not doing great. She said she still sees a spark in him sometimes, which gives the family hope even in the darkest moments. The decision to donate had to be made by Emma and the children, because Bruce no longer has the capacity to consent. Frontotemporal dementia takes away insight early in the disease process, meaning patients often do not realize they are sick. Bruce probably does not understand what is happening to him anymore, and certainly does not know his brain will be donated to research. Emma has become what she calls a care partner rather than just a caregiver, and she is writing a book about the experience that will be released in 2025. Glenn Gordon Caron, who created Moonlighting, the show that made Bruce a star, visited him recently. He said he tries hard to stay in Bruce's life, talking to him and Emma regularly, but he admitted it is getting harder as Bruce's condition worsens. The man who delivered rapid-fire dialogue and perfect comedic timing on Moonlighting can barely communicate now. That is the cruel reality of frontotemporal dementia. 20 years ago, we did not even recognize frontotemporal dementia as a separate condition. People were misdiagnosed with early Alzheimer's, depression, or psychiatric disorders. Now we know it is caused by specific proteins like TDP43, TAU, and FUS, with different proteins causing different symptom patterns. This knowledge came entirely from studying donated brains. Scientists at the University of Sheffield discovered a method to block protein buildup in laboratory models, and they are developing a nasal spray that might prevent the genetic form of frontotemporal dementia. None of these advances would be possible without brain donation. The Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration reported that after Bruce Willis's diagnosis went public, their website traffic increased by 3,000%. Donations to FTD research doubled. More families reached out for help, finally having a name for what was happening to their loved ones. That is the power of a celebrity diagnosis, turning private pain into public awareness and action. The family has witnessed frontotemporal dementia steal Bruce Willis piece by piece, watching a vibrant, talented man reduced to someone who needs constant care. They made this decision because they have lived through the nightmare and do not want other families to experience the same suffering. If his brain tissue helps researchers develop better diagnostic tools, treatments, or even a cure, then something positive emerges from this tragedy. And that is the family's lasting legacy and hope. Looking back to the 1990s, when Bruce was at the height of his fame, we barely understood frontotemporal dementia. If he had developed symptoms then, doctors probably would have called it early Alzheimer's disease or suggested he was having a breakdown. Today, 30 years later, we know so much more about the disease, its causes, and its progression. In another 30 years, we might have treatments or even prevention strategies, and Bruce Willis's brain could be the key that unlocks those discoveries. So yes, Bruce Willis is donating his brain to science. It is an emotionally devastating decision for his family, but scientifically crucial for understanding frontotemporal dementia. The man who played so many heroes on screen is becoming a different kind of hero, one whose final contribution might save countless lives. Even though he will never understand the impact of this gift, his brain will continue teaching scientists for decades after he is gone. That is not just a donation. It is a legacy that extends far beyond any movie role. A final act of heroism from someone who can no longer comprehend what heroism means. As John Travolta said, when something good happened to others, Bruce felt like it was happening to him. Now, through brain donation, when breakthroughs happen in frontotemporal dementia research, it will be because of him. That generous soul John talked about will keep giving long after Bruce himself is gone. And somewhere in a research lab, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 10 years, a scientist studying Bruce Willis's brain tissue will find something that changes everything. That is the real ending to this story. Not fade to black, but hope for the future.